Good evening. I'm your guest host, Ani Zargarian, and in tonight's Hairenik Media News broadcast, we bring you stories of courage, resilience, and unity from Armenia and its diaspora. From protests in Yerevan to prayers for captives, and from historic celebrations in Jerusalem to Armenia's diplomatic engagements, we have it all covered. Welcome. The powerful protest outside the UN office in Yerevan demanded the immediate release of Armenian prisoners held in Baku. The protest coincided with the trial of 15 hostages, including financier and former Artsakh State Minister Ruben Vardanyan. Former Artsakh Ombudsman Geram Stepanyan led calls for international pressure on Azerbaijan, labeling the trial as a gross violation of human rights. The Armenian authorities and diaspora must act decisively, he stated, urging global attention to the humanitarian crisis. Protesters submitted an open letter to the UN condemning Azerbaijan's actions and calling for the safe return of the captives to their homeland. Meanwhile, the sham trial of Artsakh leaders resumed in a Baku military court, with defense lawyers representing former Artsakh presidents and other government officials petitioning the court to allow their clients to enter house arrest instead of detention in prison. No explanation was given about what the state-appointed defense attorney's petition for house arrest would entail, given that none of the former Artsakh leaders live in Baku. Artsakh's former state minister Ruben Vardanyan, who was taken captive at the same time as the other leaders, is being tried separately and faces more than 45 charges brought by Azerbaijani prosecutors. Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan said his government was approaching the sham trials of former Artsakh leaders in Baku with caution, despite what he called the disturbing scenes he had observed in the proceedings. In response to a question from opposition Armenia bloc lawmaker Lilit Galistyan, Pashinyan told Parliament that his government has always kept the issue of Armenian captives illegally held in Azerbaijan on its diplomatic agenda and within diplomatic contacts. In the meantime, across Armenia and the diaspora, prayers were offered for the safe return of Armenian captives. By the directives of His Holiness Garekin II, the Supreme Patriarch and Catholicos of all Armenians, services were held at the Mother See of Holy Echmiadzin and various dioceses. The faithful united in prayer, hoping for justice and freedom for the detained. This was a moment of solidarity and faith, emphasizing the spiritual bond of the Armenian community. The Foreign Relations Committee of the Upper House of the Swiss Parliament has adopted a resolution on convening an international conference on the return of Artsakh Armenians. The External Relations Committee of the Council of Cantons adopted this resolution with 6 votes in favor, 1 against, and 2 abstentions. The next step will be the final step. A key vote is expected in the Swiss Parliament on a motion to create a peace forum in which the Armenians of Artsakh can claim their right to return. This initiative, which was previously approved by the lower house of Parliament on October 15 last year, aims to protect the rights of 150,000 Artsakh Armenians who have been subjected to ethnic cleansing. In Armenia-Europe relations, the Standing Committee on European Integration of Armenia's National Assembly voted to approve a resolution on Armenia's membership to the European Union, making a vote by the entire parliament imminent. The bill calls for the start of a process of Armenia's accession to the European Union and received the backing of Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan's government on January 9. Upon said approval, a senior Russian official quickly warned that Armenia will pay a huge economic price for its bid to join the EU by threatening Yerevan's membership in the Russia-led Euraasian Economic Union. Speaking at the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland, Pashinyan indicated that his government intends to push ahead with plans to seek membership in the EU. The Prime Minister also said he wants Armenia to eventually join the EU because we are a democracy. Russia's Deputy Foreign Minister, Alexei Overchuk, warned that Armenia risks losing its tariff-free access to Russia's vast market and having to pay much more Russian natural gas and other goods. The European Union Monitoring Mission in Armenia hosted ambassadors from 22 EU member states to discuss their ongoing operations and future plans. Marcus Ritter, head of the mission, highlighted the EU's commitment to Armenia during this pivotal time. In related news, EU High Representative Kaja Kallas is expected to visit Armenia in the coming weeks to discuss cooperation and development. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov played down Russia's lingering tensions with Armenia after holding what he called very useful talks in Moscow with his Armenian counterpart Ararat Mirzoyan. Lavrov said the talks will contribute to the resolution of issues that have recently emerged in our relations, some of which have provoked somewhat inadequate reactions in the media. On a number of issues, we managed to reach mutually acceptable solutions, he told a joint news briefing with Mirzoyan. He did not disclose them. Mirzoyan described his meeting with Lavrov as frank and constructive, saying that they agreed to keep up bilateral dialogue at all levels. The Armenian-Azerbaijani conflict was on the agenda of newly appointed U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio's phone call with Turkish Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan. Rubio highlighted Turkey's important role within NATO and its contribution to advancing shared regional goals, according to the State Department website. The discussion also addressed the urgent need to establish a stable and dignified peace between Armenia and Azerbaijan. Earlier, Azerbaijani President Ilham Aliyev stated that Yerevan and Baku have yet to agree on 2 points in the peace treaty, renouncing mutual lawsuits in international courts and prohibiting third-party forces on the border. He also asserted that Armenia must take 2 additional steps before signing the treaty, amending its constitution and agreeing to the dissolution of the OSCE Minsk Group. For more news from Yerevan, let's go to our correspondent Nare Navasartyan. Nare, welcome.
Hi, Yanni.
Hello. Nare, can you update us on the Armenian Prime Minister's latest announcement about the need to revisit the history of the Armenian genocide?
Of course. At a recent meeting with the Armenian community in Switzerland, Prime Minister Pashinyan questioned the reality of the Armenian genocide, telling us that we need to revisit the history to comprehend why it happened, how it happened, whether or not it happened. And this has been a consistent line with the current regime. For example, Ararat Mirzoyan, the foreign minister of Pashinyan's administration, stated in October that the recognition of Armenian genocide is no longer a priority for the Republic of Armenia. And then Andranik Kocharyan, he cast doubt again last year on the number of the victims that were canonized by the Armenian Apostolic Church. And in his statement from April 24 of 2024, Pashinyan again put the blame indirectly put the blame on the Armenians for the genocide, which is one of the most well-documented crimes against humanity of the 20th century and is well acknowledged by a number of international scholars and historians. It's recognized in over 30 countries. And basically, it's even illegal to deny it in the very country where Pashinyan denied it, in Switzerland.
The ARF Supreme Council of Armenia issued a statement following Pashinyan's comments. Can you provide more details on that?
Of course. ARF statement, essentially, the very essence of this statement was that this is just an attempt by the Pashinyan administration to comply with the Turkish demands, preconditions for normalization, which is their priority. They mentioned that the hostile expansionist policies of our neighbors are not going to be stopped by these remarks, that the pursuit of genocide recognition is important. It's an inalienable historical right that is very consistent with the interests of Armenians, both in the diaspora and in Armenia. Basically, they ended their statement with a call for all Armenians to unite against the agenda that will prevent the loss of statehood, that will prevent these offenses to our national security and the country's disintegration.
Nare, there has been a lot of criticism especially from the opposition, about the change in Armenia's national anthem. Can you please shed more light on this issue?
Yes, recently, three MPs from the ruling faction, one of them, Alen Simonian, suggested there be an amendment to the law on the national anthem instead of ending with the glory to blessed are those who die for their country. They suggest it ends with glory to Armenia, and they already played it in the National Assembly twice. And this has been criticized by, among others, the MP from Hayastan Dashing, Manukyan, who said that the law on the national anthem, it is not subject to amendment, and it should just be complied with. It should not be changed according to anyone's tastes and preferences.
Also, there's the map controversy that has sparked debate in Armenian parliament. Let's explain to our viewers the details around this matter.
This year, the civil contract faction put the map of Armenia without Artsakh in the National Assembly building, and the opposition MP Anna Mkrtchyan from Bativunem criticized this, saying that the homeland that we entrusted the EU to govern was actually with Artsakh. We had this was a part of our homeland just a few years ago, and this map that you have now is just a metal scrap that does not reflect the reality. And Artsakh, of course, is also enshrined in the Constitution of Armenia. And after which another MP from Civil Contract criticized her for calling the map of the Republic of Armenia a scrap of metal.
Nare, we have to talk about a recent domestic economic development, the transport fare hike in Yerevan. Tell us more about this and if there has been any opposition against it.
Yes, the recent transportation fare changes are targeting especially the vulnerable populations, because they simply cannot afford the change from paying 100 drams for one trip to 300 drams, especially if they make quite a few trips. And even if you take advantage of one of their yearly plan, monthly plan, still it is clear that one trip fare is increasing significantly. So there is a lot of discontent among the population, and they really want to join initiatives against it. And two opposition factions in the Yerevan Council of Elders, one led by Andranik Tevanyan from Mair Hayastan Dashing, and the other one by ex-mayor Haik Marutyan, have called for a nationwide boycott of these changes, calling for people to travel for free, calling for those who have cars to offer their cars as a free transportation means to those who have joined the boycott. And since these price changes will be implemented starting from February 1st, the boycott will also start then. So for now, they are just getting some petitions out there, raising awareness on buses, raising awareness in public places, and we will see how this boycott unfolds. Another important issue that is a strain on the population is the necessity for tax reports to be filed. This year, it is going to be only those who are employed that need to be filing those tax reports. But starting from next year, every citizen needs to file them. So there's a lot of confusion for Armenians about who needs to file these reports, what to include, what not to include, and there are major concerns about privacy, because even if your relative sends you some money from abroad, then you need to file them. There is only like an online system. That necessitates many steps, and there are many people that don't really want to give up their privacy. There's like the issue of the banking secret that is constantly infringed upon. So we will see how the boycotts or protests on this department, if this will lead to any boycotts.
Thank you, Nare, for these reports from on the ground.
Thank you.
In the Middle East, Jerusalem's Armenian community celebrated Christmas on January 18th, following the Julian calendar. A vibrant procession from the Armenian quarter to Bethlehem was led by clergy and community members, concluding at the Church of the Nativity. Bishop Theodoros Zakarian of the St. James's Brotherhood of Jerusalem led a procession in Manger Square, accompanied by Armenian scouts. He also blessed gifts distributed to the community, emphasizing unity as a cornerstone of faith. In non-Armenian news, hours after his inauguration on January 20, President Donald Trump signed an executive order beginning America's withdrawal from the World Health Organization due to complaints that the agency mismanaged the COVID-19 pandemic and gets too much funding from the U.S. Trump issued a series of executive actions after taking office, including moving to withdraw from international health and climate bodies and directing a suspension of U.S. foreign aid. A set of orders focused on immigration, such as declaring an emergency on the U.S.-Mexico border, ending asylum, and halting birthright citizenship for some children born in the United States. The president also ordered vetting and screening to the maximum degree possible. All those who want to enter the U.S. and for the government to identify countries that may have screening procedures deficient enough to warrant blocking their nationals from entering the U.S. Calling U.S. foreign aid not aligned with American interests, Trump issued an order to pause foreign development assistance for 90 days and for the programs to undergo reviews. On trade, the president issued an order calling for a review of a number of trade agreements, including one with China and the U.S.-Mexico-Canada agreement. In response to a law passed during Biden's term that would have blocked TikTok in the U.S. in connection with national security concerns, Trump signed an order telling the Justice Department not to enforce that ban until his administration could determine the appropriate course forward. In addition, on January 23, President Trump signed an executive order entitled Declassification of Records concerning the assassinations of President John F. Kennedy, Senator Robert F. Kennedy, and the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. The BRICS bloc of developing nations has a 10th full member, Indonesia, which became the first Southeast Asian country to formally join BRICS, an intergovernmental bloc consisting of countries from the global south. BRICS was formed in 2009 by Brazil, Russia, India, and China, with South Africa joining 1 year later. The bloc recently opened for expansion, accepting additional members, Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, and the United Arab Emirates in 2024. In October 2024, Malaysia, Thailand, and Vietnam became partner countries, meaning they are interested in becoming BRICS members but have not yet been accepted for full membership. Indonesia is the only Southeast Asian country that has been accepted as a full member. In cultural news, Arno Babajanyan, an iconic Armenian composer, continues to inspire with his unforgettable melodies, like The Queen of Beauty and I Thank You. His works remain timeless, celebrated across generations and cultures. In the cinematic world, Sean Baker's critically acclaimed Anora, featuring Armenian actors, has been nominated for Best Picture at the 97th Academy Awards, a proud moment for Armenian cinema. International Dance Day was celebrated in the city of Abovyan, where the Artsakh State Dance Ensemble set the stage ablaze with their captivating moves, a breathtaking display of our heritage and a reminder of the unbreakable bond that ties us all together. In sports, Armenian football clubs made waves in the International Federation of Football History and Statistics rankings, with Noah leading the pack at 153rd place. Meanwhile, football legend Hairenik celebrates his 36th birthday, reflecting on a stellar career across Europe's top leagues. Grandmaster Robert Hovhannisyan and international women's chess master Zuzana Gaboyan were crowned Armenian chess champions, adding to their remarkable achievements. And now for news from the East Coast. On January 18, over 45 Central Council members of the Armenian Youth Federation, youth organization of the Armenian Revolutionary Federation, traveled to the Hairenik building in Watertown, Massachusetts, to plan programs and events, outline calendars, and exchange ideas to shape the region's trajectory in its 92nd year. Throughout the weekend, the councils developed proposals and initiated plans of action to advance the Eastern region's projects, from Haitad initiatives aimed at mobilizing the community to PR campaigns designed to make information easily accessible. Members of the organization collaborated within and across councils to shape the region's forthcoming plans. This year's council weekend fostered collaboration among peers, while also galvanizing members to advance the Armenian Youth Federation's mission of advocating for social, economic, and political justice for Armenians in both the homeland and the diaspora. It is important to note that the AYF-YOARF Eastern U.S. held its 90th annual convention in December 2024 with the participation of 43 delegates representing the region's 16 chapters. AYF West U.S., AYF Canada, and the Bureau Office of Youth Affairs also had representatives to the convention. After evaluating and examining the 2024 activities conducted by the Central Executive, the regional chapters, and central councils, the delegates deliberated on fresh goals for the organization and improved resolutions shaping the agenda for the upcoming year at both regional and international levels. The convention concluded with the election of a new central executive for the 2025 year. That's all for tonight. From protests to prayers, cultural celebrations to diplomatic strides, the Armenian spirit remains unyielding. Thank you for joining us. Stay tuned for more updates next week. Good night.